Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Eddie here. And today I'm working on the Makers May color combo. And for this month's colors, Carrie and Paula, who host the event over in Makers on Facebook, is the Italian Plum, Aventurine, which is like this green. But see, these are aventurine stones. That's where they get the color. And they come in a lot lighter shades too, so gotta keep that in mind. And then there's Payne's Gray. This is some Payne's Gray yarn. Plus, we can use white, black, and metallics if we wish to, a metallic paint. And then the mark making shape for the month is squares. So I have a couple of my square stencils. I have something to make some marks with that I'll show you later. And then my surface is these white folders. They are boring. So I want to make them more colorful. So this is what I'm going to use as my paper. But I want to really focus on the color mixing because, see, I have this color mauve and it's almost exact match for the Italian Plum. However, if you don't have this color, I'll show you how to make it. And we're going to learn together because I'm learning as I'm doing this too. I've kind of done a little research as to what to mix, and we're going to play with it and see what we get. The next color, Aventurine, comes in, is comprised of yellow and blue. And from what I have seen, it says there's no specific yellow and blue, but they recommend, some artists recommend a cad yellow and a phthalo blue, equal amounts, will give you a nice aventurine color. Also, as a suggestion, you can add a touch of red, like a cad red, to give the green a more of a warm tone, an earthy tone. And a warm red also deepens the green. So we can, play around with that, but for now, I'm going to stick with these two colors and see what I get first. Oh, well, back to the mauve. I'm sorry. Back to the plum. So the Italian Plum color is to mix with is magenta, brown, and phthalo blue. This is a burnt umber, which is the brown I have. Pretty much that's what it is. So it recommends using your magenta as a base and then adding a little bit of blue. We can use either blue, actually, and then some brown to make it more rich. So we're going to try to make our own. I'm going to remove that out of the pile. And then we have down here, the last color is Payne's Gray. I don't have a Payne's Gray, and you can make a Payne's Gray. And I saw a lot of recipes with black paint. But I want to try to avoid the black paint and do it with other colors. So one recommendation I saw was the ultramarine blue with burnt sienna. So I'm going to do my best to make a Payne's Gray out of these two colors. It's a popular mix for artists who don't want to use black pigments. So we're going to experiment with that for Payne's Gray. Then, like I said, we have 3 extra colors that we can use in the color combo. And there's white, black, and copper. I'm going to use the copper today as my metallic. And keep in mind, with these color combos, you don't have to stick to that shade. That's your base. You can stick to it if you want, but you can change it up. Add a little bit of white, make it a little lighter, add a little black, make it a little darker. But we're going to play with mixing colors, and that's going to be the main theme of this video. And like I said, I'm learning with you, so this is all a learning process, which is always fun. So let's see, let me get my little palette here. So, and I'm gonna use my 12 by 14 plate. This sucker is covered, but it's got some good stuff on it, so I'm just gonna start with that. So let's go ahead and begin with the aventurine. I think I want to start with the aventurine, the green. So let me move these out of me way, the little way I have. So I have my 5x7 palette I'm going to use as a mixing, as a palette. My 5x7 plate I'm going to use as a palette. Okay, so it says equal parts of the yellow and equal parts blue. So let's just start with little amounts and let's see where this takes us. That's pretty equal, yeah. And this is the green. These are the green tones we're looking for. So let's see here. Let me take a little bit on my finger. It's not bad. I don't know, it's a little too bright. As far as like, it's more blue than I want. But I don't want to add the yellow. Although, let me add a touch of yellow, just to see what it does. Let's experiment. Let's see here. That's more in this vein here. I think that's pretty close. And so, do I like that? Do I want to make it lighter? Now, it does recommend, remember I was talking about adding a little bit of cad red. There's some cad red. Let's add I don't have much, so add just a tiny touch. Oops. Oh, glad I didn't put it right over that. Okay, so you want to introduce a small amount. Now remember, red and green make brown. However, let's say you want to tone down a red, add a tiny bit of the green. All right, so this is a little darker, a little richer. Not a huge difference. Let me go a little bit more red. So far we have a dollop of the blue, a little larger dollop of the yellow, and then a couple of little bits of red. I think we're okay. I'm not going to add any more. I'm going to go with that color there. So let's mix up a little more. And that will be our first layer here. Then the blue. And then there was a little bit of red. All right, let's give this a go. So basically we're using our three primary colors to make our color. It's just the amounts you use is what's the key to getting that color you want. Okay. So, first layer, just get it on here. sprayer it out. Just keep going over it, get rid of those marks I made with the palette knife. So I have this. This is a cup holder, right? Y'all have seen this. Paper cup holder. I'm gonna make some marks. I haven't tried this yet. You saw it was clean, so it's all new to me. Ooh, that's interesting. Kind of like little wisps. Oh, it's interesting. If you use your finger, push it down, you get more of that shape. Huh, very cool. Put this down. Hopefully it hasn't dried too much. And all the messing around I'm doing. This is just some wet strength tissue paper I'm using to clean up with. And remember, there was stuff on the plate, so it's not going to be just the Aventurine on here. It's going to pull up whatever was on there. And it's, I wanted to also remind you, my folder, the paper, you can see, it's got a texture to it. So that's going to be really cool too. And look, you've got some of that metallic that was already on there, the gold. But I love that mark making thing. That is cool. All right. So that is your Aventurine. Now, remember, I've got a second folder. Let's mix a lighter version of the Aventurine. So we start with our CAD. We know the basic formula now. 1:1, but I like a little more yellow. A little bit of red there. I think that's good. And then we'll introduce a tiny bit of white as we mix it and see if we like it. And see how quickly that goes. We don't need much. Now, if you do make too much, it's always good to have little extra pots lying around to put your extra paint in if you don't use it right away. That way you don't waste it. Let's do this. Ooh, I am liking that so far. It's sort of like a gray-green. Now it's definitely going to be more opaque. I'm going to add go ahead and add the rest. Let's just get it on the plate. I don't mind the white streaks. Okay. Don't worry, those are plastic. I'm not messing up my plate. Can we use, should we just do the same marks? Let's do the same marks. I'm gonna start in the middle, but this time I'm gonna push on these inner bits. Let's see if we can line them up so they're, that's not bad. Now, I'm working fast because that last one dried too quickly for me. So let me get this folder down. All right, I'll let that sit there for a minute and clean my little palette over here. We got more of that gold down here and the blue up here, so it matches the other one. Very cool. I don't mind the brayer marks because this is already got a grungy feel to it, and that just adds to the vibe. So that's our aventurine. So let's move on and work with the Italian plum. And for that, we're going to start, like it says, with the base of magenta. And then it says to add a little bit of blue. And then the brown. I'm using burnt umber. And the brown is added to give it a richness and a warmth. Okay. That. We'll start with a little bit of blue. That makes a lovely purple, and that was my phthalo blue. So yeah, that's a nice purple. I'll take some of this brown. Now this is definitely needing more of the magenta. That blue, I forget, is quite strong. So add more of the magenta. Bring it back around to the more of that reddish, brownish color. Still not digging it. I think it needs a little bit more magenta. Now, I wonder if I could try a cad red. I wonder if the cad red would do anything, like help it out. You know what? I'm gonna try some alizarin crimson, simply because it's got a darker tone to it than the cad. So let me try a little bit of this. Whoops. Hate when that happens. All right, let's see here. I think this is going where we want it to go, which is the more warm plum color. I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of that. Maybe just add the rest of this brown, because it's not very much. I like that. Okay. So, I think for this one, I'm going to use one of my square stencils. Let's use the smaller squares. And I think for this, I'm going to put the color down first, put the stencil over, and then I'm going to pick up through the stencil, the paint through the stencil with one folder, and then pull up the stencil and then take the ghost print and put it on the other envelope, or the other folder. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's definitely giving me the plummy vibe. Plummy. Make sure we got enough for the sides. See, it's not as dark as this, but I still like it. I think it turned out great. But it's definitely in that ballpark behind home plate. All right, so this is gonna take a few minutes or a few seconds because I got to really push, because this is a thick, thick pieces of paper on top of each other, and I want to get inside those squares really well, especially down here with the folded part inside the pocket part. That's even thicker. All right, let's see how we've done. Hey, that's brilliant. We did it. And then the negative, or the ghost print, we can put right on here. So let's review right quickly. So for this Italian plum color I made, I used a base of magenta, and then I added some phthalo blue, and then I added some brown, or the burnt umber, and then remember, it was just not the right shade. It was leaning more towards the blue. So I think next time, less blue, or maybe I'll try ultramarine blue. Let's do that next. I want to try that next. Try the ultramarine. And then I added to that first mix the alizarin crimson, which helped get it to that Italian plum shade. Yeah, not much left on there, but that's okay. See, it's a ghost print for a reason. It's very faint, but you know it's there. Try with some ultramarine blue. And we have our magenta and a little bit of our brown. Oops, come on. You can close. And then our magenta. So let's do a little bit of blue, a little bit of blue. Okay, not bad so far. A little bit more blue. Always start with little amounts. It's easier to add than subtract. That's a lesson you learn quickly. Lesson I learned in cooking school regarding salt and pepper and that sort of things. Start with little, you can always add. It's very difficult to subtract salt. Okay, now we're going to introduce the brown. And this is more, I think. I like that. That's richer. So I think the trick is ultramarine and not the phthalo blue. With magenta and some brown. And notice I used more brown than I did in the first mix, and I don't have to use the alizarin for this. All right, let's get you on here. This can go on the backs of these folders. Okay. And let's do the mark making thing for the back. Like that. We'll start up here. Really push them down. And here we use this one. Use this here. Use my Baron to make sure I'm getting all that good stuff off the plate. Especially down here, because you notice down here it doesn't pick up the paint as much. I think it's because it's thicker. So I gotta make sure I push a little harder. There we go. Brilliant. That's a beautiful color, yeah. Let's mix a little more. Practice makes perfect, right? We've got our magenta. So this is our other one. This is our magenta. Let's introduce some blue. I think we can go ahead and introduce the brown. Let's give it the rest of that brown there. That's nice. Let's add a little white. Why not? We'll change it up just a little bit. That's a very nice shade. The good stuff. Okay. That's good. Go. Okay, again. Let's get the Baron on the thickest part first. Make sure it pulls up all that good paint. Lovely. Okay. I'm going to clear up the decks real quick. I'm going to pause you, and then I'll be right back, and then we can go on to the Payne's Gray. Okay, for the last color in the combo, we're going to mix it up using the ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. So I'm going to start with my blue and then slowly introduce the burnt sienna. Okay, there we go. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because I want to avoid using black. And This is the recipe I found. Not recipe, but the suggestion of how to make a Payne's Gray without using black. Ooh, that's looking good. Look at that. That's brilliant. And that took like 2 seconds, right? Didn't need black. That's a beautiful Payne's Gray. Right there. Let's do it, Dan. Okay, so maybe for this one, what shall we do? The large squares, maybe? All right, I think I'm gonna do the large squares. So let's see here. Let's get this paint up on the plate. All right, there we go. Party on. Here. No, I don't want it on there. Do I want it on there? Yeah, we'll do it on the back side. Alright, so let's make sure we get everything out of those squares that we possibly can. Yeah. And look at that. Because the ultramarine is a transparent paint, I think it made it the paint, because and the burnt sienna is opaque, but it helped give more of an opacity, more of a translucency to the paint. I think that turned out to be a great combo right there. Okay, so for this side, I'm going to do the large squares on the front. Oh, well, there is not much left there. So let me pick it up on the back because there's not much left. I don't think we're going to get much off there, so we'll go ahead and mix up some more. Edges are getting so heavy with paint, they're just not picking it up anymore. So I gotta start using the center. Look at that. Yeah, just a hint, but you know what? I like it. A faint hint. So now my fronts need gray too. So let's get some Payne's Gray going again. So we're gonna need some ultramarine. And that was about that much. And then we could use this here. I'm not gonna put all of it in, just let's go little by little. I get excited and I start adding, you know, piles and piles. It's like, no, take it easy. Go slow. You know, I'm scraping the plate because you want to make sure you get all those colors mixed well. See, and I'm rubbing it off because there's still unmixed burnt sienna in there. I mean, if you like the little pops of the other color, that's fine. But if you're just doing a straight Payne's Gray, there you go. That's even more blue. Because you notice I put less of the burnt sienna this time. So this has more of a bluish hue to it, which is great. So let's do this one. Now, for the front, how do we want to introduce this? Because unfortunately, when I cut these stencils, I didn't make it where these would line up very well because I'm mathematically challenged. So I'm not going to use that. Oh, you know what? Bubble wrap is always fun. So use a little brighter here and just kind of blur it out a little bit. And you don't have to push hard, just push, you know, firm enough to get your paint transferred. There you go. Also don't want to pop the bubbles, otherwise you don't get that cool effect. There we go. Some here. A little bit there. There. All right. Put the rest of that on here. All right, so there we go. Wow, left on there. It's okay. You see, it's a much bluer version of that, the first mix we did. Let's do this one. With the smaller squares. It's already got the smaller squares, but maybe if we shift it a little bit, it can be kind of cool. Or, yeah, let's do that. Ooh. All right, so I just want the squares. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put my mix through the stencil. Do a little bit more because there's a lot of space to cover here, and I want to get a nice coating of the paint for my for here. Probably gonna need a little bit more of this. And see, quickly it turns to the gray. Add the rest of this. See what it does. I'm assuming it warms it up. It makes it a warmer gray. I'll try a little bit more and see where that gets us. Ah, come on. All right, everybody in the pool, come on. Just keep mixing. Look at that, look at that. Definitely warmer. Let's see here. A lot warmer with that color there, with the added burnt sienna. Burnt sienna? Yeah. but it's sienna. Now what if we introduce a little bit of white? I do like to try that when I'm mixing colors, just to see what it would look like as a lighter color. This is one we gotta mix well. And I'm getting a little out of hand here with my palette knife, but I think that's nice. All right. Just start it up here. It can make its way down. Really, I love it. Okay, and we're gonna go here. I'm just gonna go a little off sides so it doesn't necessarily line up with the other ones. Although the edge there might get in the way, but I'm not gonna worry too much about it. A little bit of edge, that's kind of cool though, because it looks like part of the folder, like the spine or something. All right, this does need more of the other color though, the Italian plum. So I'm going to come back in and maybe use this stuff, the bubble wrap with the red on that one. So this one has the 3, nice. And then on here, I think we're okay. Or should we do some bubble wrap here? Do a little bit of bubble wrap action. Ain't nothing wrong with a little bubble wrap. Okay. And we do need some aventurine on these, so we'll go back to that color. So we need to add some more of the Italian plum to this front cover here. And I think, yeah, like I said before, I'm going to use the bubble wrap on here. So let me just set this over here for now. Okay, so for our red, we're going to use Payne's Gray. Oh, I shouldn't have used that much. That's okay. All right, so we have some magenta. Going to use a little bit of blue here. If I need to, I can add more. And then the other color, brown. So I'll add that as I need it. All right, let's introduce a little bit of brown here. A skosh more magenta. Because remember, the plum, the Italian plum, is a little warmer an earthier tone than a regular like a purple. That's lovely. Loverly. Okay. Spread this out a little bit. Get my... This is it, right? This is it. Let's do... Lovely. Stands out nicely. A little bit of the top here. Okay. So there's your color combo. The only thing we have to add is the metallic. However, on the back, I need to make some more aventurine and add some aventurine on the back. So, all right, so I'm gonna use this Amsterdam Primary Yellow. And the, put that away, oops, there goes that paint. And we did the ultramarine, I believe, for this. Let's mix it up and see what we get. And this is also, you know, when I've said in other videos, play with your paints and get to know them. This is another great way to get to know your paints, is by practicing your color mixing. Because that knowledge will become invaluable when you are, you know, you get in a groove, you're gonna get in a groove, especially like gel printing, and you're like, oh, I want this color, and then you don't have that color, and then you gotta stop, you gotta find out how to mix it, and it's pain in the butt. So practice your color mixing, get to know your paints. All right, so this aventurine is not quite as blue as that. It has more blue. So let me see here. I'm gonna try a light blue, because I want to see what that does. Will it give us that lighter aventurine color from those stones? And looks like it does. But it's still a little on the darker side. Put a little more blue in there. Let's see what happens. So this color kind of falls in with the different shades of the aventurine. So I think it's good. Although I'm trying to think, because we want to do this on the back. Oh, I forgot I have this stamp up here. This is my foam stamp Unraveling Squares. I forgot I had pulled that out. All right, so let's do that. We're gonna do some stamping with the paint and a foam stamp. And like I always say, when you use a foam stamp with acrylic paint, make sure you clean it afterwards, or at least drop it in some water while you work, because you don't want the acrylic paint to dry onto the stamp, because then it will not work as it's supposed to. Because it needs to be absorbent for when you use your inks, right? And the acrylic is pretty much a plastic, so you risk, you know, covering the details on your stamp in plastic, and then your ink can't get through. Let me pick it up. I think it's good. Nice. A little thick here, but that's okay because that's a little texture going on. All right, so that has to dry. And this one on the back. Oops. Let me pick this up here. I don't want that on the front. All right, let's get to stamping here. It's kind of looking very 80s right now. Just remember that TV show that was famous in the 80s called Square Pegs. That was a fun show. All right, brilliant. So these have to dry before I do anything else. The metallic is what's left. So I'm going to set these aside, let them dry, clean up, and come back and do some metallic. All right, guys, so for the last step, I'm gonna use this copper as my metallic. And where's my little brayer? Here we go. And I think I'm just gonna do more of the bubble wrap. I almost put the wrong side down there for a second. So maybe go over a little bit, kind of overlap that with the other one, and then not. Okay. So that looks lovely. And then for this one, we're going to do the same, and a little bit more of my paint. And then that will be it. So I hope you learned some color mixing tips. I hope you give it a try. It doesn't have to be this combo. It can be whatever combo you want it to be. But I just encourage you to play around with your supplies and, you know, see what you can do with them. So as I'm finishing this off, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. Again, this was the Makers Color Combo. You can find out where to go to Makers in the description on the box, the description in the box under the video. The description box that they call it. Look at that. And yeah, you join the Facebook group. It's run by PM Artist Studios. And that's it. Thanks, guys. I hope you had a wonderful time.